Welcome to In the Verse, songcrafting in the Firefly universe. With your hosts, songcrafters, and fellow browncoats, Marc Gunn and Mikey Mason.
Welcome to In the Verse, songcrafting for the Firefly universe. My name is Marc Gunn, the creator of the Firefly Drinking Songs show.
And I'm Mikey Mason, creator of the Beer-Powered Time Machine podcast and currently the MIKEYtalks podcast.
This is part 10 of our 14-part series. We are watching episodes of Firefly. Our goal is to find themes and stories that we can write songs about.
The first 6 episodes were funded by Marc's fans and his Gunn Runners Club. He hit a milestone, which made this show happen.
There are still more episodes of Firefly, and these last 8 episodes were funded by Mikey's fans, helping him hit a milestone on Patreon as well. But you can still help us in this creative endeavor by supporting Mikey at patreon.com/Mikey Mason.
And by supporting Marc at patreon.com/Marc Gunn Music.
Upcoming shows, January 10th through 12th. Man, I'm just all over the place today, but January 10th through 12th, I'm going to be at Gefilte here in Atlanta. The 24th and 25th, I'm going to be at Interstellar Ginger Beer, an exploration company in Birmingham, Alabama, and then Maggie McGinnis Pub in Huntsville, Alabama. And then in March, I'll be at Cleveland Concoction, in May at the California Auto Harp Gathering. And back in January will be Coffee with the Kilt Father. It's done for the season, but I will have another show. The show will continue on Facebook exclusively, 10:30 a.m. Eastern on Wednesdays.
Yeah, and for me, January 17th, 18th, I'll be at MarsCon in Williamsburg, Virginia, and I usually do online shows every month. I don't have dates currently nailed down for December or January, so check my schedule at MikeyMason.com. I have a bunch of dates as well. I'm just too lazy to look them up right now, and they may change by the time you listen to this. So.
That always, yeah, that happens. I want to let you know also that if you want to join me in Italy, I'm going to be going there this summer, and I have space available for anyone.
I want to join you.
Okay, sure.
Is there room in your luggage? Because I can't foot that bill, brother.
Go to CelticInvasion.com. You can find out all the details. It's going to be a great trip. And in January, end of January, I'm going to be launching the Kickstarter for my next album, Selkuth. So I hope you will consider supporting that as well.
So let's talk about the songs from the last episode. Episode 9 was about Ariel.
Ariel,
right?
Yep.
And you wrote a song called Keelhaul Y'all.
Yes. So of course the song was in the last episode, and it all stemmed from the line of Mal, which said, "I hear they used to keelhaul traders," which seemed like an excellent time to write a modern sea shanty of. Which I thought would be kind of fun. So it definitely hits, for me, it's very much in the vein of like Drunken Sailor, rhythmically. It's very straightforward rhythm. And now the lyrics, I still need to spend a little bit more time, I think, working on them, because I'm not, totally, I like how it came out, but I don't love it. So, the chorus, of course, was a lot of fun. Keelhaul, y'all, you're in danger of losing your life. This time to the squall. Keelhaul, y'all, you better get used to your Gorham crew if you want to belong. And it's all, and that's what it's all about. It's about, sticking with your friends and not betraying them, and showing, and remembering that we are family, and the only way you can, if you really want to overcome your challenges, then you pretty much have to, stay with your family, with your people, and, support them. So yeah. It was fun to write. Again, I definitely want to try to do something. I want to work on those lyrics a little bit. I feel like it needs a story.
You make all these great songs that are very singable, sing along. You know what I mean? That you can join in and just sing at the top of your lungs. And I want to make something fun like that myself. I'm not with this project. I don't know. Because your stuff is like kind of anthemic in that way. Everybody gets to get behind it and sing the chorus, and we all just get in it when you're singing it. We're in it with you. We're singing it with you. And my stuff is turned out to be a lot more introspective and personal, and music for a darkened room when you want to feel bad about life. Because mine is about, finding your crew, finding your family too, but only after you betrayed them.
Right.
And so I did one of those character pieces, one of those very introspective with Don't Tell Them What I Did. You and I have talked about, certainly what I think is the most powerful moment in that episode, and the most redeeming moment in the episode from a television standpoint. I mean, the first majority of the episode is just standard TV fare. We talked about it.
Yeah.
Last time, but this whole that conversation between Mal and Jane, and the unspoken conversation, and then the turn of the conversation when Jane realizes it and says, "Don't tell him what I did."
Yeah.
That was powerful to me. And so this almost comes off a little bit like Bon Jovi musical theater. I don't know. Bruce Springsteen musical theater. I don't know. But there's a very musical theater element to the chorus.
Yeah.
So, but also I just love the song. Although, like you, I'm not 100% happy with the lyrics. I feel like there's some stuff that I rushed. Like I got no intention of running around like a rat in a maze till we're dead. Mm-hmm. I'm just shoving syllables in that line, and I'm going to pare that down.
That's always been my biggest challenge, I think, with writing songs is cutting out the words. It's all about editing. I don't know about you, but I have found a large portion of the songs that I've written have way too many lyrics in them, too many words in a phrase. And so I find myself now, finally, I am starting to I start cutting things down. I have a recording of Frosty the Irish Snowman that I recorded, and I use something, and I think there's like a "the" that just annoys the hell out of me every time I hear it, because I added this "the" in the shillelagh. And it should have just been shillelagh. It didn't need the. It's like,
I thought you were going to say Frosty the Irish Snowman, and I had to cut the part where I said Frosty the Irish Snowman. He's actually white, not green, because snow is white, and he didn't add food coloring or whatever.
Not quite that bad.
But no. So there's also places in Don't Tell Them What I Did where I think that I could have played it for more effect and make a bigger build. So maybe there'll be a bigger bridge on it at some point. By the time I finalize it, I don't know. I think it's as a nice, short, sweet character piece. I'm in on it. And maybe its strength lies there. My cat Lloyd is yowling in the room here. I don't know if you can hear him.
Hi, Lloyd. Hi.
All right, I'm going to let him out, and then we can summarize this show. What do you say?
Sounds good. All right, 5-minute show summary for War Stories, written by Cheryl Kane.
And this is her first, by the way, and only writing credit on the Firefly series. I didn't look up what else she did, but this is, I have a habit, as you know, of looking up who the writer is.
I actually looked for it this time for the first time ever.
And this is her only effort. And honestly, just at the beginning, and I don't want to go too deep, but there's a line by Simon that made me think that this might have been written by Joss. And so that's when I checked. I paused it and went and checked. So
All right. On board Serenity, the crew bonds in many ways. Shepard Book and Simon discuss the writings of a sadistic warrior poet. River and Kaylee chase each other through the ship. We learn that Jane has purchased a crate of apples for the crew, which is uncharacteristically generous of him. And Mal and Inara have a terse discussion over a client of hers, a politician looking for discretion and privacy, and is coming aboard while they are on a planet selling some of their stolen medical goods.
Elsewhere, crime lord Adlai Niska is having another betrayer tortured, also alluding to the warrior poet Shen Yu. An underling interrupts him to announce a nearby Firefly-class ship that might belong to Malcolm Reynolds. Meanwhile, Wash learns that Mal rejected his plan to sell their stolen medical goods directly to doctors rather than through middlemen, and he argues with Zoe about it. Book, Kaylee, and Jane get a glimpse of Inara's arriving client, who turns out to be a woman against the crew's expectations, and Jane utters the infamous phrase, "I'll be in my bunk."
Mal and Zoe learned that Wash changed the launch sequence on the shuttle so he could go with Mal while they make the drop. The tension between Wash and Zoe is obvious, and Mal eventually allows Wash to accompany him to make the exchange.
While Inara pampers her client, Wash, Mal, and their buyers are ambushed by Niska's men. The buyers are all killed, Mal and Wash taken. Later, when Mal and Wash are late getting back, Zoe, Book, and Jane head out to investigate, finding the bodies of the buyers and the merchandise left abandoned, with evidence pointing to an abduction by Niska.
Mal and Wash are tortured by Niska as Zoe launches a plan to take the money they earned from their last heist to try and pay Niska off. This ploy doesn't completely work, but Niska lets her leave with Wash and part of Mal's ear. After Zoe and Wash reach the shuttle, Wash is resolved to rescue Mal.
The entire crew joins in on the attack and rescue attempt and eventually saves Mal, killing many of Niska's men but leaving Niska still alive. Simon reattaches Mal's ear and things go on almost as usual aboard Serenity.
All right. I've said this many times, but this is my favorite episode of Firefly.
While I was watching this, I was thinking, and this happens a lot while I'm watching these episodes, I think this is my favorite episode. Except for on Ariel, when I thought this is my least favorite episode.
Yeah,
until the end of it.
Right. Well, I think about, the episode before that was Out of Gas, which is one of my favorite. I've always listed as one of my favorites. And I think I can pinpoint it down to the fact that it's you really get to know the characters. I don't know about you, but when I was going through this, what ultimately came to mind, it seems kind of obvious that the theme is the obvious theme. It seems like meeting the real you, and in here we really meet the real characters, and to some degree, you get to see them up close and personal. Particularly Wash, I think. Wash, this is like the best character development. I was looking at, there's the scene at the beginning when Wash is sitting at the table in the kitchen, in the dining area, and Zoe starts telling the story about the apples, right?
Yeah.
And Wash jumps in with his and then they grew into a big tree, and they all climbed a big magic tree, and they all climbed up into the tree with unicorns and a harp.
Magic land, yeah.
The look on Zoe's face is like, oh my God, am I married to him? He's totally killing this thing, and then you contrast that to the very end when he's sitting at the table, or when. Not then. When was it? There's a scene later, which was totally bringing me to tears. I'll tell you. This is also the episode that I cry the most at. But there's a scene when Zoe is looking at her husband with all of a sudden, this. Oh, I think it was in the scene when they're loading the guns and such. But she's looking at her husband with this renewed sense of, this is why I love you, because I now know the real you.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cry again.
So
sorry.
No, it's all right.
But every time I see that, it's like, you get this, you understand why Zoe is in love with her husband. It's wow,
Yeah.
Good.
Well, no, it's I have three themes that emerged to me through this, and they are, and first and foremost, and the main theme is identity, as you said, meeting the real you, or who is the real you, and it comes from that, and it's stated directly because Simon and Book are talking about the Shun Yu, the warrior poet, who talks about you can live with a man for 40 years and eat and drink and whatever, but if you take him to the edge of him, but then you can take him to the edge of a volcano and hang him off the edge by his feet. And on that day, you will finally meet the man.
Yeah.
And so, of course, Simon says, Shun Yu, the psychotic dictator, but then you get, that Adeline Niska is also into Shun Yu, right?
Yeah.
And so the three themes that I got involved from this are identity, meeting the real you. It's stated implicitly and explicitly throughout the episode. And then bonds. There are bonds. And what are the bonds that hold people? And what are the bonds and relationships between people? And identity and bonds are intricately intertwined.
Right. And
they require clarification. And then complications. Identity, bonds, and complications. And things are, let's take Zoe, Mal, and Wash. There's a complicated dynamic to that relationship. Yeah. So I just went through and I'm just writing down beats and moments and quotes, and then which one it, falls back to, Adeline Niska's torturing the random betrayer. And he says, now we get to the, we know that you're the betrayer, blah, blah, blah. He says, but now we get to the real questions about who you truly are. Yeah. And that's when they start to torture him. And then of course, Niska and Book are both quoting Shun Yu. Yeah. So this is about identity because we don't know who Book really is.
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And do they share some sort of a bond through this knowledge? How do they both know about this? Obviously they're both well-read. Simon's well-read. They all got it.
Right.
Mal doesn't know. If he knows Shun Yu, he doesn't show that he knew who it was when it's quoted to him later, asked about him later.
Right.
Identity. Why do you always cut your fruit? When she's talking about the apple, it's about identity. She talks about the Griswolds. They're a battery-sized grenade, and you look over and all of a sudden there are three guys who are nothing down to their rib cage, nothing down to their torso,
Right.
When Wash and Zoe are arguing, he screams, "What this marriage needs is one less husband. Right now it's kind of crowded." That's about identity and bonds and the relationship. River vomits and Simon's talking to her and she's, in her verbal diarrhea that she tends to spew, she says, the sun goes dark and chaos has come again. Fluid. What am I? This speaks directly to identity. Nobody expects the counselor to be a woman, that the client is a woman. It speaks to identity. Everything is about identity. When Anara is with her, Anara says, most of my clients are men. Because the counselor says there's no need for the show, Anara, and Anara says one cannot always be oneself in the company of men, and then the counselor says never actually. Mm-hmm. And it's about identity, and it's just they dealt with Ball before, so it's okay. There are bonds. They have bonds. They know who Ball is. They know his identity. They've worked with him, so she's okay with Wash going. Right. That's about identity. Even when they, on their way down, do you know what Zoe's job entails? Now I'm learning about carrying. Now I'm learning about scary things. The Niska's men are camouflaged in the hills. They aren't what they seem. It's about identity. The identity just permeates, then when they want to go investigate, Book wants to come. When Zoe and Jane are going to go, he's like, three eyes are better than two, but she's, three sets of eyes are better than two. So he convinces her, but she says, no offense, preacher, but I sure as hell hope they don't need a preacher, know? But identity is central to his character, or more importantly, that we don't know what his real identity is.
Yeah.
But he accurately identifies rifles and tactics from wounds on bodies.
Yeah.
And, Jane says, you do a lot of shooting at the Abbey, Shepherd? And he says, rabbits. And he says, for stew, sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now this is, again, it points back to Shepherd Book's identity, and then also maybe a way that he can bond through weaponry and tactical knowledge with Zoe and Jane. And then when they're separated, Wash is saying, no matter how ugly it gets, you two always come back with the stories.
With the stories.
Right. And then I love this line. I mean, I'm the one she swore to love, honor, and obey. Yeah. And Mal starts to say something, and he goes, what? She swore to obey? Well, no, but that's just my point. She obeys. She obeys you. There's obeying going on right under my nose. I love Wash so much. And Zoe says that Niska's got his own code, twisted as it may be, and that speaks to identity and bonds.
Yeah.
Mal and Wash, they have that hard conversation. They develop that bond between them, which is a lot about identity and relationships and complications on, while they're being tortured, and Zoe, when he says, Zoe and I we've got history. I figure you've got to be asking yourself some fundamental questions as to the nature of that history. And Wash says, you never slept with my wife. And he's just sure of it, later on, Zoe's trying to buy them back. And he says, they're perhaps damaged now. They're worth so much to you. And she says, yes. She doesn't even blink. And he says, there's not enough for two. And he starts to go on, and she goes, him. She points right at Wash with no hesitation. And then he looks at her and she says, I'm sorry. You were going to ask me to choose, right? Did you want me to let you finish?
Right.
And right there, we know who Zoe is.
Mm-hmm.
She, and right there, Wash knows who Zoe is.
Yeah.
She's Wash's wife. Sure, she's always going to be Mal's second, but when she had to choose, when she's on the edge of the volcano, that's her identity. She is bound to him. They're bound together.
Yeah.
When they get out, she thinks he's talking about Niska because he's insane. Yeah. I didn't know. And it turns out he's talking about Mal. He wouldn't break Zoe, and he kept me from, I wouldn't have made it. And, because Wash was going to die there and Mal. And now we know who Mal is. He's the kind of guy who will talk the hard talk with somebody while they're being tortured to keep them in it. And then when she says that Niska's going to make it last as long as possible, days if he can. And Wash says, bastard's not going to get days. And now we know who Wash is.
Yeah.
We're closer to it. And then complications really didn't strike me right off. The first time it's brought up specifically is during the torture scene when Mal talks about on-ship relationships complicate things.
Yeah.
They split loyalties. And it just didn't catch that until Niska said, business is not war. Heroics are complications. Unseemly. They complicate. Heroics are unseemly. They complicate. And then the whole crew joins in to join Zoe and Wash, even Jane, and we're learning who they all are.
Yeah.
Because, even and without that last episode, Jane probably wouldn't be there. I don't know. He might.
No, I think you're right. I don't think he would have been there. But he is you learn a little bit more about him too. When he's sitting there criticizing them and saying, you're going to get yourselves killed.
Yeah. It's a suicide mission. Yeah, it's suicide
mission. And then
he's learning about himself too, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And then you get that moment where Jane's, kind of kvetching about, how they're going to get spotted. And, Wash says that they've powered the things down and he's blowing static. So they're going to think it's a radar glitch until they get there. And then Zoe says, it's like throwing a dart, Jane, and hitting a bullseye 6,000 miles away. Mm-hmm. That's my man.
That's the scene where I think when I saw that pride in her eyes, and I was like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, that's my man. And then they arrive, and their complications in Niska's heroics are unseemly. They complicate. Yeah. So now this complication, and then even tortured, killed and revived, Mal gets back up and fights and screams at Niska, you want to meet the real me now?
Yeah.
And, that's when you just,
you meet the real him.
Yeah. And you want to follow him to the ends of the verse. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And and then Kaylee folds, Zoe says, we hold this point. And basically she makes it clear. If we lose this point, we've lost.
Yeah.
If we lose this ground, we've lost. And Kaylee is left alone and she's unable to shoot back. She finds herself unable to shoot back and falls back to the Serenity, and then River runs up, grabs the gun, and she's like, can't look, because she popped her head out, can't look, and then she shoots blind 3 guys, she just, without looking, boom, 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 and all 3 go down, and then she throws Kaylee's words back at her, because Kaylee got the apple, no power in the verse can stop me, and then River looks at her and says, no power in the verse can stop me, and to River, that's building a bond, but we see later that Kaylee is uncomfortable with River, because that bond is really a complication. Heroics are complications. Knowing who River is now, as we peel back these layers and find out who River is, and then Kaylee is unable to kill people. We just saw that. And again, we won't see her. I don't think we see her get ready to be armed and kill anybody until the big damn movie.
Yeah.
And then, again, and just to wrap up with identity and complications, Mal asks Simon, how he's faring with that, arming up and shooting at people. And Simon says, I've never shot anyone before. And Shepherd Book says, I was there, son. I think you still haven't.
I love that.
Which is, and it's great, but it's all just, it's about identity and complications. And of course, there's that fantastic scene at the end where Mal and Zoe, he says, so I think we're going to have to, have sex. And she says, take me, sir, take me hard. And Jane comes in and goes, well, that's downright unsettling. But, and then Wash gets up and says, we'll be in our bunk. And then he slaps her on the butt and she hoots. And they're a married couple almost for the first time. She allows herself to be not Mal's second in front of Mal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's so true.
And then, hey, free soup.
Hey, ow.
So, I mean, I know that I've just been spewing words. I've just been talking a lot, but I loved this episode, I love this episode.
The interactions are just absolutely incredible, and again, you learn so much about the characters throughout. You find out, again, as you say, Kaylee doesn't want. She's not the violent person. Shepherd Book, who the hell knows at this point in time if you don't.
Yeah, Gunn's fuzzy. He's fuzzy on the subject of kneecaps.
And
then when he does shoot somebody, and he shoots them right in the kneecap, and then of course they fall headfirst into a pole and knock themselves out. But
yeah. So the other theme that I similar to what you had there that I had listed was talk relationships and sex as war. I was looking at it from that perspective, because, you think about all the characters, and obviously there's combating each other throughout the episode, as particularly with Zoe and Wash, their arguments. There was the interaction between Inara and the counselor. That was the one that I felt to some degree, it seemed almost out of place for this episode, but you put it into perspective of, as you say, intimacy, not intimacy, but
identity.
You put in those terms, and again, in relationships and sex, in this warring terms, how to fight and conquer and relate to one another too.
Yeah.
So that was another one that struck me throughout, is how they were interacting in these fashions. Again, obviously with Nishka and Wash and Mal, and as they're fighting to survive against Nishka. So that was another one that struck me. The two big ones that hit me offhand.
Yeah.
So.
So what do you think you're going to write about? I know that you and I have talked about.
I know. I started
talked
lyrics.
about a song. Yeah, a long time back when we first discussed doing this podcast,
and they were really bad, and
they weren't that bad.
They were pretty bad, but the big thing was though that it was a start, and I feel like I've learned so much. What I find fascinating is I feel like I've learned so much since then about writing a little bit more to the themes, instead of, because my biggest problem with it was that I didn't have a theme and I couldn't figure out where to go with it, the story.
Yeah.
And now I feel a little bit better. Now that doesn't mean I have a solid way to go. So the things that I'm looking at are obviously meeting the real you, getting to know the person down, the real person, the real people in general. The relationships and sex. There's a part of me that's wondering if there might be a dirty song in this or something, something that could include a sexual tension and fighting in a story of some sort. And I don't know exactly where that is. On
a personal level, while I would relish the challenge of that, on the other hand, from a songwriting perspective, tying together sexual overtones and violence seems like a bad idea to me.
Yeah, well, okay, you got a point. I think it's more of the relationships that I ultimately am thinking about in general, though. Yes. Things like, again, the line, Wash's line, protecting your own intimacy issues on projecting your own intimacy issues on everyone else, sort of aspect of love and sex is war. And the other thing that and I just love some lines. Take me, sir, take me hard. Which that in itself honestly, could be the start of that song that I'm mentioning. She
sold that line with her deadpan flat affect. If she had tried, if she had been like, take me, sir, take me hard, you might have taken it the wrong way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep,
Wash might have taken it the wrong way. It was perfectly delivered to tell you that is exactly the opposite of what she wants.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that I'm looking that struck me was the apples. The apples rained into the trench, and
how do you like them apples?
Well, yeah, there's that. But in the Celtic tradition, the apple tree has a symbol of healing, youthfulness, and rebirth. Particularly the last part, rebirth, could come to play as you look at the way the characters seem to start, but then you see how they finish once you meet the real them. There's a sort of rebirth that comes out of it, and a relationship healing. And I wonder if there might be a way to combine those flying apples into the trenches with the Griswold that might be able to turn into something else. So those are areas that I thought. What about you?
Every time I say this is what I'm going to write about, I end up. I don't
That's
necessarily.
Not true. Shades of gray. Right.
Most of the time, I end up taking a left turn somewhere. I am incredibly inspired by. Do you want to meet the real me now?
Yeah.
Now you want to meet the real me, or you want to meet the real me now, which I think scans better as now you want to meet the real me. But you want to meet the real me now. That is just, heroics are unseemly. They complicate. I like that. Man, I love the dynamic between Mal and Wash in this. Mal's annoyed by him, and you can tell Mal is just fairly seething about the whole situation because he was right. And the line we didn't bring up, is when Mal says she shouldn't follow every order I give her, and Mal goes, name one, and he goes, she married you.
Yeah.
There's plenty of orders of mine she didn't obey. Name one, she married you.
Yeah.
And wow, the gravity of that line when it lands to find out that he didn't want, and it's not that he doesn't care about love, and it's not that he doesn't care about Zoe. It's that he cares about his crew operating efficiently, and that complicates things.
Yeah.
Shipboard relationships complicate things. So, that whole Wash is so green, and he's, in it for the stories, and there's a reality behind the stories that, I'm fond of saying, we all love adventures after they're done.
Right.
But when they happen, most of the time, if it's a real adventure, it probably sucked at the time.
Right.
And it's, and that's, that's not very eloquently spoken, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
Most of the time when you're on an adventure, it's probably pretty crappy. And you can look back and say, laugh about it and say, that was great. I'm glad we made it through it, but you wouldn't want to do it again.
Right. Exactly.
And I think that that's what Wash learns. I mean, there are all these great stories that involve, he said, that involve ribs or whatever he said,
right.
rib cages. And that's his way of making light of it. But that's because he hasn't experienced looking over and seeing somebody not have a head anymore because they took a bite of an apple.
And that's transformative as it is, just the idea of going from the, I've never seen anyone die to, wow, this person died. And in horrific fashion.
He says, I've been in firefights. And he goes, you've been in a firefight. He goes, well, I've been in a fire. Well, I was fired once. I mean,
fry cook up.
Right. So, and Wash is just this guy who will shoot off at the mouth. He's lovable. He's great at what he does, but he'll just run off at the mouth. And he doesn't necessarily understand the implications of all the things behind the dynamic in their relationship.
It's just a story, it's like, it's not real until you can actually, experience it, and you just can't imagine what it would be like.
And what's funny is they're talking about what needs to happen, the unresolved dynamic, and it's not that she's the captain and he's not,
Right.
Or sorry, it's not that Mal's the captain and Wash isn't. That's not what he's mad about. He thinks it's that Mal's the guy she didn't sleep with. But the reality is that what has to happen is he has to understand the dynamic of their relationship to be okay with it. And this helps, after this, I'm certain he has a better idea of the dynamic of their relationship.
What's important, is it Malcolm Reynolds or is it him? And he now knows it is totally him.
He's the important. Yeah. Personally, he's important. But when it comes to getting stuff done, she respects Mal's opinion. Mal's got her and a lot of other people through some serious stuff.
Right.
And she agrees with that opinion. Not all the time, obviously. She married Wash. But, so I think that, the problem got solved here, even though they never showed, well, I guess they did, but they didn't talk about the problem being solved. And it's never going to be completely solved, but or resolved, but it's so much closer because what really needed to happen was understanding.
Right. True.
It's not that she needed to be over it because he said, I wish you had, because then she'd be over it by now. I wish you had slept with her because she'd be over it by now. But that's not it. It's that he doesn't understand the dynamic in their relationship, and so all he can do is misinterpret it.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Oh, there was something else. Where was that? Was I ever not thinking what the captain thought? And I think that's one of the things I also loved about the Wash and Zoe's relationship, and they're having that argument, and Captain thinks he'll get back to someone. I find myself when I'm far too often I speak in a passive tone because I don't want to offend, like Zoe says. And that was one of the things that really struck me about how great the language was there. Was I ever not asking you what the captain thought?
Right.
Which it just rang home. I was like, oh, that's a little too close to home on how I talk sometimes.
Yeah. I ever not asking you? Yeah.
Right.
The line at the beginning that made me think Joss Whedon might have written this was between Shepherd Book and Simon. And it was about identity. And it was when I first started thinking about identity with this. And Shepherd Book was talking about him being a criminal mastermind, or you're a criminal mastermind now.
Right.
And Simon just kind of rolls with it. But he says, I'm going to grow a long black mustache. I'm a traditionalist.
Right. That's so true. That is sounds like very much a Joss thing.
and I wonder if that was a line that Joss threw out, or if it was just a line that's in the style of Joss Whedon. But anyway, that's what made me check who wrote it, because I was like, did Joss write this? Did Joss Whedon write this?
Right.
So, all right. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to write about. I mean, I mean, obviously, I just want to write a song called War Stories now.
Yeah.
But I want it to live up to the title. So if I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it'll be the real me. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not 100% sure.
Stop stealing all the good titles, man. Those are good. Yeah, I don't know.
We can write 2 songs with the same title.
Right?
You know they're going to be completely different songs.
That's true. This is true.
They're going to sing yours and, complain that mine's all depressing. And
has anyone could have done that? No, they haven't. Stop whining here, man. When you write a great song, it's a great song. It doesn't matter what the topic is there.
Well, I hope I write great songs sometimes. So I know they're not all winners, but let's hope that these finish.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's break up and not break up. I don't want to break up, Mark.
No, don't break up with me.
But I do want to go off in our separate corners and write these songs because right now I'm feeling super inspired to write.
Okay. Yeah, me too. All right, let's do it. All right. My man doesn't take life serious. My man won't look darkness in the eye. My man is jealous of my friendships. My man never saw someone die. My man prefers the laughing, so he doesn't have to face his pain. My man is afraid of his darkness. He doesn't want to give it a frame. Apples rain down in the trenches. We grew into magical trees with harps and singing unicorns. My man knows where he wants to be. My man may joke when he's hurting, but if he becomes unhinged, my man will kick you down. You'll know the meaning of revenge. A man likes to laugh at misfortune that hides his insecurity. But I'm proud that my man throws caution, 'cause my man is a rarity. Apples rain down in the trenches. We grew into magical trees with harps and singing unicorns. My man knows where he wants to be. We always have our stories to love, honor, and obey. To meet my man truly, gotta meet him in his pain. The apples rain down in the trenches. We grew into magical trees with harps and singing unicorns. My man knows where he wants to be. Always have our stories to love, honor, and obey. To meet my man truly, gotta meet him in his pain. To meet my man truly, gotta meet him in his pain.
Is it hard for you to reconcile just where we should fit in? When the lightning starts to crack and then someone has your back, sitting calm and waiting for the thunder to begin. Do you make a joke and laugh, wishing you had what we have? Some strong uncommon bond that goes beyond the world you know. Do you scratch your head and smile, wondering all the while at the silent recognition that we always seem to show? When it's a privilege that we've earned with every bridge we burn. When the world around us went to hell, we return. Now all we have are scars. We'll never live down memories we can't get out of our minds. And friends, we'll never let down. And stories of Some folks learn to fly to sail the blackout in the sky. Some folks build those ships that still others learn to mend. Some folks heal the flesh with either needle or caress, and others walk a line of faith to save us from our sins. But we walked a different path while you stayed and did the math. Instead we took up arms to hold the devils back. Now all we have are scars. We'll never live down memories we can't get out of our minds. And friends, we'll never let down. In stories scars. We'll never live down. And memories we can't get out of our minds. And friends, we'll never let down. In stories of scars. We'll never live down memories we can't get out of our minds. And friends, we'll never let down. In stories
Thanks so much for listening. You can download these demo songs when you sign up on our Patreon pages. Find out more about Marc Gunn and Mikey Mason and how to support our music on Patreon.
We would love your comments, songs, or lyrics, or links to share to videos in the next show. So use the hashtag #InTheVerse. You can post them on the Blue Sun Tour Facebook page or email intheverse@fireflydrinkingsongs.com.
In the Verse was produced by Marc Gunn and Mikey Mason. Sign up to our website and find out more about the Blue Sun Tour at fireflydrinkingsongs.com.